The Gene Hackman case stinks to high heaven. It's not getting any better. The mystery of Gene Hackman's death. This is getting worse. Nothing is being resolved. It stinks. It's putrescent. I don't want to keep making these putrescence jokes. It's a bad pun, but it's true. This man, this Hollywood legend's final days, raises more questions than answers because Gene Hackman was a man, of course, known for playing his tough, no-nonsense characters, but that was who he was on the screen. He was a very sensitive person. Did you ever hear the story about how his father abandoned him? It'll rip your heart out. 2-time Academy Award-winning actor, spending decades trying to define the image of the rugged American hero, kind of a Spencer Tracy, no-nonsense with a great smile, but brutal. But in his final days, this 94-year-old man found himself at the center of a mystery so bizarre, so weird, that even Hollywood's best screenwriters couldn't have imagined it. And maybe it's the prosecutor in me. Maybe the fact that I just don't believe anything. Maybe police and local authorities oftentimes will paper over their own incompetence just to withstand scrutiny. This is the same Santa Fe folks. Remember them? Gene Hackman's death, along with the sudden passing of his wife, Betsy, through Hantavirus, we'll get to that in a moment, and even one of their pets, has left behind a trail of questions, inconsistencies, eerie circumstances that no one seems to be willing to talk about, but I do. Now, the official narrative states that Gene Hackman died of natural causes at his home in Santa Fe, New Mexico. 1 week after his wife Betsy's reported death from Hantavirus, a rare and highly deadly disease, pulmonary, that leaves you in your last days, I mean, at death's door. But she's calling to make appointments with doctors and is seen around town. Doesn't make any sense. This case stinks. The couple's pet, a small dog that had recently undergone surgery, also perished from starvation in his crate. So Gene's walking around just oblivious. And the only time we say, well, we know he died because of his pacemaker stopped. Does that mean necessarily he died then because of the pacemaker? You do know you can keep somebody chained up, so to speak, and then, once they die of pacemaker, then you can make it look. I'm not suggesting it, but what I'm saying is people are saying, well, pacemaker stop, that's it. Wait a minute. That's an indicium of fact, an indicator, a piece of evidence. But as any seasoned crime analyst or criminalist or detective will tell you, when the details don't add up, you don't dismiss the case, you dig deeper. And this timeline is still impossible. I keep going. I can't get past this. Let's start with the most glaring problem, the timeline. February 11, 2025. Betsy Hackman is officially declared dead due to complications from Hantavirus, right? February 12th, a Santa Fe doctor confirms that Betsy called his office to schedule an appointment a full day after she was supposedly dead. Made an appointment and wasn't. Never called 911, never called a doctor in the throes of Hantavirus death. No. February 18th, a week later, or 6 days later, Gene Hackman is found dead in his home, allegedly, putatively, from dehydration and starvation, after not eating for a full week. February 18th, the couple's dog is also found deceased in its crate, having starved to death. Now let's take a step back and process this logically. 1, How does a deceased woman make a phone call? I'm not getting past that. Don't dismiss me on this one. If Betsy had died from hantavirus on February the 11th, how in the hell could she have contacted her doctor's office the following day? And I don't mean just calling up, but not calling up for help, get me out of here. Or send help or I can't breathe. No. This wasn't just a clerical error. This is an impossibility. How does that work? Do you expect the people in the police who, by virtue of explaining that, would admit their own incompetence to dig deeper? Next question. Why did Gene Hackman go a full week without seeking help? I mean, was this man's level of Alzheimer's so deep, so horrid, so horrific that it just... What? How did it happen? I don't know. Reports suggest that he may have suffered from mild cognitive decline, but was it so severe that he didn't notice his wife was dead? The dog was dead? She's on the ground? There's pills strewn about? He's walking around perambulating, apparently. Why didn't he call anyone? Why didn't anyone check on him? He was a beloved Hollywood icon with family, friends, caretakers, yet no one noticed his total silence for 7 days. You're going to find something about that somewhere along the line because somebody's not talking. Next, why did the family dog die in its crate? If Hackman was so disoriented that he didn't feed himself, why didn't he at least let the pet out? Again, he has to be so out of it that you would think, how could she have even taken care of him? How could she have done that? Now, something is deeply wrong with this picture. The suspicious nature of hantavirus is critical because it's extremely rare, with only a handful of cases reported in New Mexico each year. And the disease is typically contracted through direct exposure to rodent droppings or urine, the inhalation of such, which raises a question, where did Betsy get infected? She was a wealthy woman living in a clean, controlled environment, not exactly the kind of setting where one would expect exposure to a lethal virus from rodent urine. I don't know. I'm no expert. But even stranger is the way she supposedly died. I'm telling you again, hantavirus leads to severe respiratory distress before causing death. Victims struggle to breathe and often require hospitalization. Yet she was seen out and about, running errands, acting completely normal up until her alleged sudden death. No signs of coughing, no difficulty breathing, no medical intervention. A rare disease, no hospitalization, no symptoms, and a phone call from the grave? The official story expects us, to believe all of these things at face value. You're not supposed to ask any questions. Sound familiar? But anyone paying attention should be raising an eyebrow at how quickly this cause of death was accepted without further investigation. And then there's the behavior of the Hackman's daughters. One of the strangest elements in the case is the silence from the Hackman family, particularly his two daughters, Elizabeth and Leslie. I know there's a son there. I don't know. Now, while Hackman was known for being a private person, his death has been met with almost no statements, no public grieving, and no demand for further investigation. Remember how these daughters were seen out and about? And remember they said, it was probably carbon monoxide. It was just, what? In high-profile deaths, it's common for families to issue statements, seek answers, and express their emotions publicly. But here, we have silence. There are whispers in Santa Fe that the daughters were unusually absent in the days leading up to their parents' death. Some reports suggest they hadn't visited in months. When was the last time they spoke to their father? Why wasn't anyone checking in? And why aren't there more instances of them pushing for answers? The estate that Gene Hackman leaves is worth, well, they believe, about $80 million. Yet the family has remained disturbingly quiet. Who stands to benefit? Cui bono, cui prodest? Then there's the convenient closure of the case. Another major red flag in the situation is how quickly authorities ruled out foul play. Wasn't that something? The Santa Fe medical examiner immediately stated that no further investigation was necessary despite the massive inconsistency in the timeline. The sheriff's office was a bit odd too as well. They seem to have taken this at face value and closed the case. Okay, nothing to see here. You would think with this famous, especially after the Alec Baldwin thing, you think they would say, oh, no. No, we're going to make sure everything's kosher. No autopsies were demanded by the family. No toxicology reports were requested. No follow-ups were made about the mysterious February 12th phone call. Why? If this had been any other Hollywood icon, anyone else, the media would have been digging into every detail. Imagine if this was Robert De Niro or Jack Nicholson or Al Pacino. The scrutiny would be relentless. But for Gene Hackman, the authorities that caused everybody are suspiciously quiet. Why? And the big question, could this have been murder? Let's consider the worst case scenario, foul play. Could someone have poisoned Betsy and staged the Hantavirus excuse? Could Gene have been deliberately left to die, ensuring no witnesses? Could the phone call on February 12th have been someone else using her phone to create an alibi or confuse the timeline? Could financial motives be at play, with the estate in limbo and the beneficiaries keeping their heads down? We are expected to believe that two people died under highly suspicious circumstances, and that a third innocent victim, their pet, also just happened to perish at the same time. Coincidence? Or something far more sinister? If you're into this, if you're a crime sleuth or a detective or a CSI kind of person, here's what you should pay attention to. For true crime followers, real crime, what do they call it, true crime? Here are the red flags. The impossible phone call. Who was really on the other end? The convenient medical explanation. Why did authorities rush to close the case? The lack of intervention. Why didn't Hackman's friends, families, or neighbors, or anybody notice his condition for an entire week? The financial motive. Who stands to gain from the Hackman's estate? And the case is not closed. It has been merely swept under the rug. It's not closed. It's not closed. Why this case deserves more attention is really the ultimate. Gene Hackman spent his career, like anybody, but portraying tough, again, and determined men who never accepted things at face value. It is an insult to at least his acting character legacy to accept this hastily wrapped up narrative without scrutiny. And take it from me, I've been red-pilled so long ago, I don't believe anything. I almost start off with a default mechanism. Start off with the idea that they're lying to you and then work around it. The timing of the deaths, the inconsistency in the timeline, the lack of a real investigation, and the complete media silence scream for further inquiry. Hollywood has seen its share of mystery deaths, but few as blatantly suspicious as this one. And the question now is this. Will anyone demand justice for Gene Hackman? Who is going to speak up for him? We are. Now, my friends, I ask you to please like this video, subscribe to the channel. 80% of the people who watch my videos don't subscribe. And make sure you hit that little bell so you're notified of live streams and new videos. And whatever you do, my friend, I ask you, I beg, beseech, entreat, and import you to comment as you see fit.